Rebbe, you're on mute.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Mishnayos, Pirkei Avos ends in the end of Pirkei. Perek Vav is a big brisa, and that's why the Perek begins. Shon Chachamim b'loshen ha-Mishnah, b'or shebach b'hem b'mishnasam. This is not really a Mishnah. The Meir speaks about the significance of one who learns Torah lishma. The Gemara in different places talks about people who learn Torah shaloi lishma, and there's an obvious contradiction between the various sources. In many Gemaras, the memory is quoted, person should learn Torah even shalol lishma, because ultimately it'll lead to him learning Torah lishma. Even if he learns shalol lishma all day long, every minute to shalol lishma, part of the learning will be lishma. And the other Gemara says, one who learns Torah shalol lishma nachlo, it would have been better for him that he should have died when he was in a fetus state. He should never have been brought into the world. So Rashi and Taisus are bothered with the contradiction between the two Gemaras. So Rashi and Taisus give the same answer. Basically, there are two types of shalol lishma. One shalol lishma is the person learns because he wants to have kavod, or he wants to make money, or something like that. But some people learn shalol lishma lakanter, to show up the others that he's smarter than them, that they don't know how to learn. So that's terrible. One who learns lakanter shalol lishma, that's noachlo nepcha sheyasa apanav. I remember there was a student in my time. There was a student who learned in Rabbi Soloveitchik's class, and he said he wants to learn by the Rav so long until he'll be able to show a piece of Gemara to big Talmidei Chachamim, and no one will know pshat. He'll be the only one who knows pshat. And now he's a prominent Rebbe in a yeshiva, and he still goes with his attitude, and that's why his Talmidim are all tzedreit. They're not normal people. The Netziv has an original suggestion, which he writes. The Netziv, whenever he has original ideas, he writes them in several of his svarim. So this idea appears in his Chuvas and in other svarim by him. The two different types of learning, not two different types of shalol lishma. If a person learns what it says, he's learning Chumash, he's learning Gemara, he's learning Shulchan Aruch, even shalol lishma, mitoch shalol lishma, b'ol lishma. But to be mechadish shalol lishma, that you're not allowed to do. Something new. I'm going to found a shul because in none of the shuls, they don't give me Aseres Adibras, they don't give me Chazak, they don't give me Shlishi. I'm the big Talmid Chacham, I deserve such kavod. So I found a shul in order that I should be the rabbi. I found a yeshiva in order that I should have a place to give a shiur. The regular yeshivas, they don't need another yeshiva. There are enough yeshivas in the world. I'm founding a yeshiva because I want to have a place where I'll have a job, or my son will have a job, or my son-in-law will have a job. That's not permissible. You're not allowed to found a yeshiva. Shalol lishma, to do something original, to be mechadish something, that has to be lishma. I remember there was a boy who was, he learned in Rabbi Soloveitchik, a different person, not the same one as before. Boy, he was sitting and learning a certain Mesichta for the first time in his life. He already had a pen and a pad. He's already writing a sefer. What are you writing? He's learning in order to be mechadish. The learning was in order to be mechadish. Mamish Allah l'shma. The learning was in order to be mechadish, in order to put out a sefer. I remember there was another fellow who was older than me. He only wanted to marry, I don't know why, he was dating, he was older than me, and he only wanted to marry the Chassidish Rebbe's daughter. So he had to prove to the Rebbe that he's worthy of marrying his daughter. So he put out a sefer in learning that the Rebbe should be convinced that he's a big Talmid Chacham. He wasn't from a Chassidish background, his parents were not so observant. So it didn't stand a chance. The Rebbe's going to marry his daughter off to a Chassidish Rebbe's son. He's not going to marry her off to this Baal Tshuva. He was a student at YU. He's not going to marry his daughter off to a boy from YU. It was a lo ba b'cheshbon. It was ridiculous. Nothing ever came from him. You write a sefer shaloi lishma. The Gemara says writing down Torah Shabbal Peh is not proper. Dvarim Shabbal Peh yatabar shalayam b'iksav, but we allow it because eslasas lashem aferet teresecha. You're only allowed to write a sefer because eslasas lashem. If it's l'shem shamayim, then you're allowed to. But printing a sefer to get a job, printing a Dvar Torah in order to get a shidduch. That's not permissible. Print a sefer because you want to share your Torah with other people. You have a small group. You told your chidushim to a small group, but you want to give your chidushim to the rest of the world. So that's what Moshe Feinstein writes in the Hakdama to his Dibros Moshe. He writes he has a little tiny yeshiva on the east side, and he hardly has any talmidim there. He didn't most of the time. He didn't have too many talmidim there, and he feels that he has an obligation to be melamed Torah to as many people as possible. So he realizes if I'll write his Chidush Torah, many more people will be able to read it. The Gemara tells about one of the people in Sefer Shoftim that here Beisa Gvuli did Talmidim. He was praying to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Rebbeinu Shalom should give him this chi. He should have more Talmidim. He should be able to be Malamed Torah to a bigger group of people. Okay, so if you write a sefer, you print a sefer, in order to fulfill a mitzvah of Talmud Limud HaTorah L'Acherim, to be Malamed Torah L'Acherim on a grander scale, that's permissible. So the Mishnah speaks about learning Torah Lishma. One who learns Torah Lishma, Zecher L'Dvarim. What does it mean, Torah Lishma? So this was famous. Rab Chaim Volozhiner has a long arichas on this in his sefer Nefesh HaChaim. He says many Hasidim thought that learning Torah Lishma means l'shem, to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he thinks that's not correct. He proves from many Gemara. Learning Torah Lishma just means ma'abas HaTorah. He learns the Torah in order to know what the dinim are, in order to know to observe the mitzvah. It doesn't have to be with kavanas, with fancy kavanas to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Memela, he will come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what the Mishnah is going to tell us. But that doesn't have to be the kavanah. And he quotes, the Gemara tells us that David HaMelech prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yehi Ratzain, that David HaMelech composed all the Tilim. So he praised HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yehi Ratzain, that the reciting of Tilim should be accepted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. It became part of Kisvei HaKodesh, just like learning the Goyim Bahalas. Apparently learning the Goyim Bahalas is muskam l'chala days. That for sure is a high mitzvah of Talmud Torah. But HaMelech was praying that reciting Tilim should be accepted as well. There Rab Chaim Volozhiner says, we don't know if his prayer was accepted. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not agree that one who says Tilim should be considered as important level of Talmud Torah as learning the Goyim Bahalas. But reciting Tilim brings one closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You get such emotions of his karvas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he says, Torah Lishma just means to learn all the dinim. That's why he founded the Volozhiner Yeshiva, to learn. They should learn, not to, shouldn't. The Gemara says you have to daven also. The Gemara says the time to learn Torah L'chud and Zman Tefillah L'chud, you have to daven also, but they didn't daven for hours and hours. They davened briefly. One of the, there's a professor in Herzl put out a whole book about the development of the different Lithuanian yeshivas, Professor Stempfer, I think his name is. So he quotes from one book, he says he doesn't know how it is possible. Someone writes in memoirs that he learned in Volozhiner yeshivas, every day they daven Shachris a half an hour. How can it be daven Shachris half an hour? It's impossible to daven so quickly. Must be some mistake or something. But we know that they didn't daven. They didn't spend hours and hours on davening. They daven. You have to daven. Zman Torah L'chud and Zman Tefillah L'chud. And the main thing was the learning. The main thing was not the davening. So Rab Meir says in the Mishnah, one who learns Torah Lishma, Zecher L'Dvarim Harbei, V'lo Od, El Shekol Ham Kula Kidai Hu Lo. Yeah, what does this mean? Kidai Hu Lo? HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world with only one person, Adam Arishan. And it would have been worth it to create the whole world just to have one person who's a tzaddik. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you only have one tzaddik who's fulfilling mitzvahs, so he has to build his own house, he has to make his own furniture, he has to make his own clothing, he has to make his own food. It's impossible. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to create many more people and many different things in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Chava that it should be Ezer and Egdo. So the Rav Abba Soloveitchik writes in his Sefer, the Chava was the Ezer, she helped him prepare the food. And Chava was Kenegdo. If you just have one person, like now, everyone is quarantined in their apartment, everybody's sitting alone. you don't carry on conversation with other people, you can go out of your mind. How can you function all by yourself? So you need a little connecto, you need a little diversion. You have to have other people. So the Rebbeinu Shalom made a whole big wide world. Many people build houses. Many people make furniture. Many people make clothing. Many people prepare food. They plant food and they harvest it, and then someone else grinds up the wheat, and someone else makes bread out of it, and so on. This is all Ezer. And then we have Kenegdo. You have a whole world that people shouldn't be omdim shomimim. They'll be all by themselves. So you need diversion, and you need chavrusa, and you need other people to help you. But basically, the world was created for one tzaddik. If there would be one Adam Rishon, the world was created for that purpose. The pasuk says in the beginning of Bereshis bar Elokim. So Rashi quotes from the Midrash, and Bereshis b'shvil yisrael shenikra Reshis, kodesh yisrael Hashem Reshis tvuasai, b'shvil haTorah shenikras Reshis. Hashem kanani Reshis darka, the pasuk in Mishlei. So the Torah was created for the purpose of the Jewish people to learn Torah and to keep mitzvahs, and everything in the world leads to that. When they first built the railroad connecting Berlin with St. Petersburg, so Rab Chaim Soloveitchik made a comment. It's printed that Mistama min Hashamayim, they thought that there should be this railroad that the students should be able to come to Volozhin Yeshiva in a shorter amount of time. They shouldn't have to travel so long. And then years later, it took years and years, and fortunes of money and many lives were lost to build the transcontinental railroad that went all the way to Vladivostok that faces Japan. And what was so many people lost their lives building a railroad? They had to work all day and fortune and money and so on. What they need that railroad for? So in the middle of the Second World War, we understand why. That's what the many tzaddikim said after the war. All the Miri Yeshiva went on that transcontinental railroad to Vladivostok. That was the way they got to Japan. The tachlis of everything in the world is everything should lead to Bereshis. B'shvil yisrael shenikra Reshis, b'shvil haTorah shenikras Reshis. That's called Alam Kula, Kedai Hulo. It was Kedai for the Rebbeinu Shalom to create the whole wide world, everything for the one tzaddik, for the one person who learns Torah L'Shma and who keeps mitzvahs. The Rambam gives a mashal like that a sheikh, an Arab sheikh, built a palace in the desert, and they used to have belly dances there, and they used to have parties there, and the whole thing was it cost a fortune of money, and the whole thing was all pizzas and luxuries and everything. And it didn't accomplish anything positive in the world until once a chacham was traveling in the desert, and he was exhausted, and he took a nap in the shadow, in the shade of this building. The sun was over there, shining over there, and the building was so big, so it made a shade. So the chacham, the scholar, rested in that side of the building where there was shade. So the building that had no purpose, no positive purpose in the world, finally had a tachlis, that it served the purpose, that it helped the tzaddik. And everything in the world is like that. Everything in the world is b'shvil yisrael, b'shvil haTorah. That's Rav Elvela Soloveitchik.
Then I'll see you. Take this off.
Let me take this off.
No. Okay. See.
Okay.
Do you see him now?
Yes, thank you, Rebbitzin.
Very good. So the Gemara in the beginning of Maseches Avodah Zarah has a discussion that on the Yom Hadin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to have judgment for everybody, all the nations of the world. We're going to call upon and the Romans and to ask, what did you do to contribute to mankind, to humanity? So we're going to say, we made all the bridges and we made all of the highways in order that the Jews should be able to go to learn Torah. So the Rebbeinu Shalom says, a bunch of liars. What do you mean that the Jews should learn Torah? You made the bridges in order to charge tax that who goes on the highway, in order to make money. So Rabbi Avila said, how can I have chutzpah? And the Yom Hadin, they're going to lie. They're going to say that they built the bridges and made the highways. The first daf in Avodah Zarah, they made the highways in order that the Jews should learn Torah. So he said, that wasn't their intention. But that was the Rebbeinu Shalom's intention. Everything in the world, like we said, when they made the railroad connecting Berlin and St. Petersburg, when they made the transcontinental railroad, it turned out that it led to Liman Atar. So that's what the Romans, Baltaina, that they made all these highways and everything for the ultimate purpose, Min Hashemayim, was that it should help the Jewish people learn. But the Rebbeinu Shalom said that wasn't their kavanah, so that's not going to be matzal them on the Yom Adin. So that's what it means. Kol olam kula kedai hulo. The Medrash Shmuel is a collection of late Rishonim, early Achronim. So the Medrash Shmuel here in the big Mishnahs, I have it printed on the side of the page here on the sixth parak. It's on all the Pirkei Avos. So in this Mishnah, he has a comment. Why does it say kol olam kula? Let it just say shehu olam kula kedai hulo. Olam kula means if the Talmid Chacham lives in a generation, there's so many things going on there. There are countries, there are men and women, millions of people all over the world. So many things going on. Everything in the world is kedai hula. Everything was kedai for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to create, in order that there should be the one tzaddik who's doing Ritzayin Hashem. But kol ha'olam kula means the whole creation of the whole world, not only in this generation where the tzaddik is. If the Rebbeinu Shalom would have created the world and the whole 6,000 years ago, and there would be one Talmid Chacham now, one tzaddik who learns Torah and keeps mitzvahs, 6,000 years later would have been kedai to have a whole world for 6,000 years that they should have the one Talmid Chacham come now. In different yeshivas, where great Talmid Chacham came out from the students, so a lot of times they quote the Rosh Yeshiva. This Rosh Yeshiva said, if I founded Panovich Yeshiva just to have one Talmud like Pliny, would have been kedai, all the traveling all over the world and raising all the money and all the arguments and all the negotiations with the government and everything to have a yeshiva, all the tircha, just to have the one Talmud. So that's based on this Mishnah. Kol ha'olam kula kedai hulo. And the one unusual Talmid Chacham, so the Mishnah describes, he's beloved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, beloved by the people. Misamech es hamakom, he cheers up HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Tanakh seems to tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu enjoys when the Jewish, so to speak, when the Jewish people are learning Torah. You have a pasuk in Shiras Dvorah in Sefer Shoftim that's very interesting. So what does it mean? So Pasha Pshat is the Jewish people started to worship other gods. They started to worship Avodah Zarah. Ozlach Misharim, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished us, and he brought Malchama. Ozlach Misharim, he brought Malchama into our cities, not the Malchama somewhere distant. Ozlach Malchama is in the middle of the city, and the Jews were not prepared for the war. Jews didn't have any weapons to fight back. So there's an additional level of interpretation that appears in the Medrash. The Yalkut Shimoni is a likut of Midrashim that was put together by one of the Rishonim. So the Yalkut Shimoni quotes at the Medrash, Yivchar Elikim Chadashim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates Chidushay Torah. Yivchar Elikim, Pashim Pshat Elahim, Loshan Avodah Zarah. And the Medrash interprets an additional level of interpretation, not Pshuto Shem Mikra. Because Baruch Hu chooses, he appreciates Chidushay Torah. That's why the Jewish people, Lachem Sharm, that's why the Jewish people engage in Malchamta Shal Torah. Malchamta Shal Torah, they argue things out till they come up with Chidushim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates all of these Chidushim. So that's what it means. Misamech es hamakom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates that. Then the Mishnah says the person will be malbashtoi anova v'yira. The person will become a greater onav than he was before. Rav Soloveitchik has an essay that he published on this topic, that one of the 13 principles of Emunah, of the Rambam, is that we believe the laws of the Torah are immutable, they never change. Why such an obstinate insistence that the laws of the Torah never change? The world keeps on changing, everything keeps on changing. So every state has a constitution, state constitution. Every state has every couple of years constitutional convention to touch up the constitution. Constitutions were written so many years ago, so you need amendments. We don't have horses pulling buggies in the street anymore. Everything, the whole world is different. So you have to touch up all the constitutions. So what's so big? Why does it say Baltaisid Baltigra? You're not allowed to add on to the Torah, you're not allowed to detract from the Torah. Why not? The Torah was given so many 3,000 years ago. So what's so bad? Why can't you change? Why such an insistence? So Soloveitchik has in his several essays. He quotes both Rab Chaim Volozhin and the Baal HaTanya give the same explanation based on passages from the Zohar, that the Torah is not merely a collection of laws, 613 mitzvahs. It's derech mashal. It's a description of Elokus. Rashi, Parshas Mishpatim on the pasuk V'Elokim Mino Liyodo. Rashi quotes a beautiful medrash that the Torah is a mashal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you take the whole Torah, you take everything, you put everything all together. It's a description of Elokus. We couldn't understand what Elokus is all about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to tell us. We have no hasaga. So he had to give us a mashal. We wouldn't understand a mashal either. So the Torah is a mashal of a mashal of a mashal of a mashal to get an inkling of an understanding of what Elokus is all about. So when a person is learning, so that's why, and everything in the world keeps on changing. The physicists, I think in modern physics, they claim the whole world is changing, turning back into Tovavo. Okay, Zalzain Azai. And the one thing that doesn't change is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's essence, because he's not part of the Bria. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. It's a pasuk in Trei Osir. God's essence doesn't change. The human body changes, the eggs change, the chickens change, the grass changes, everything in the world changes except for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's not part of the Bria. So when a person is learning Torah, he's really coming into the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He becomes Lifnei Hashem. It used to be that a person wanted to enter the presence of Hashem, he would go to the Beis HaMikdash. That's Hashem's home. The home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Beisi. But now that there's no Beis HaMikdash, how can one join the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So the Gemara says, you learn Torah and you'll be in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when one wants to be arrogant, I'm a knacker, I'm smarter than you, I'm richer than you, I have a bigger yichus than you, I'm better looking, more handsome than you, whatever it is. But in your presence of Torah, there's nothing to be bragging about, nothing to be arrogant about. So if a person learns Torah, Lishma, and he realizes that he's coming in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by definition, he has to become more humble than before. And if he doesn't, unfortunately, there are people who are learned who are not humble, unfortunately. So because they don't have this recognition, they don't have this in mind that when they learn Torah, they're learning about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and they're coming in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's what the Mishnah tells us. And Malbashtai Anova and Yira also, Yira Shamayim. The Mishnah says, the opening Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. What's the significance of Torah Misinai? So the Gemara says we should learn Torah L'Doros the same way the Torah was learned at Har Sinai. What does that mean? Just like at Har Sinai, the Torah was given be'ema b'yira b'resa subezeya, and trembling, not zeya. Zayin yud ayin hey means perspiration. Ziyah means trembling, shaking. So to the Doros, we should learn Torah in a serious fashion. It's not a game. We should be cheerful when we learn Torah. A person should be in a state of simcha if he wants to learn, because in order to be matzlech in learning, you need a hashvas hashchina, shchina kinegdoi, okay? But still, there should be with ema yira beresas v'ziyah. There should be a lot of yira. So that's what the Mishnah tells us. Kol alar Torah lishma, he will be zeichet. The Mishnah has later that in order to be matzlech in learning, you have to be humble. The Gemara says that in the many disputes between Beishamai and Beisilol, Ruba de Ruba, we pass like Beisilol against Beishamai for two reasons. The Gemara at the end of the first parak in Erevin, with Gimel and Beis. So the Gemara says one reason is that Beisilol were the majority, and it says Acharam Lahatas, and the other reason is because the Beisilol were more humble than the Beishamai. So more humble, therefore you stand a better chance of being Mechaben Lamitu Shel Torah, because you're open to listen to other people's suggestions. If a person is arrogant, he thinks that he's God's gift to the world. He thinks whatever occurs to him on this spur of the moment is certainly correct, and he doesn't have to consider the possibility maybe he's wrong. Maybe his instinctive reaction is incorrect. So humility is needed as one of the milas in order to learn. But then when the person learns, he becomes more humble. One is this will enhance his humility because he realizes he's in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he's learning. What is there to be arrogant about? And when the person starts to learn, you have to learn like Maimon Hasina, the Ema Bira Bereses of the Zir. But when he learns, the learning will enhance his Yirah Shamayim. As he continues to learn, he'll become a greater Yirah Shamayim. Machsharta, it prepares him, the one who learns Torah Lishma, Machsharta, prepares him, the Tzadik, the Chassid, the Yosher, etc. That's the Pashup Pshat. Machsharta means, the Lahachshir means to prepare him. Chaim Alojana has a famous comment over here that in Yiddish, when you do Hagolah on a treifa pot, you call it Ois Kasher. You kasher the pot. How do you kasher the pot? It if you put in burning hot water, you cook burning hot water in the pot, so the blia that's below in the dipnak there will come out. So many times we learn, and we forget everything that we learned. The learning goes in one ear and out the other. We forget everything. So what did we accomplish by learning? So Rab Soloveitchik said over a medrash that gives a mashal, a melech came to a city that was established on the banks of a river. Years ago, they used to build cities on the river because they needed transportation. So they would transport their goods on the boats on the river. Today, you have airplanes, so you don't have to build a city near a river. So the king was very beloved by the citizens in the city. So he brought a lot of pitchers, a lot of pots, and he brought a big container, and he asked all the people, could you please take the pots and take water from the river and carry the water a few yards and pour it into this big container, and he's going to come back at the end of the day. He's going to reward them if they do what he requested of them. So they said, sure, fine. They loved the king. They'd be happy to do it. So everybody took a pitcher, a pot, whatever it was, and they started filling up water from the river and carrying it to this big container. And then they realized that all the pots had holes in the bottom and all the water is leaking out. By the time they got to the big container, there were only 2 drops of water. So it'll take them 100 years to fill up the big container. So all the people stopped wasting their time. It's an exercise in futility. And one fellow said, no, the king knows what he's doing. He's not a fool. He brought us the pots and pans. He must have some kavanah. So he was schlepping water all day long, and all the water was falling out. And by the end of the day, he got 100 drops of water in this gigantic container. So the king came at the end of the day, and he asked Newt, did everybody follow my instructions? I see it's all empty. What happened? So all the people, except for that one person, said, we realized he must have made a mistake. The pots have holes in the bottom. It's ridiculous. We won't accomplish anything by filling up the pot. So we realized he made a mistake. And he said, did anybody do what I asked? He said, yeah, one person. So he said, I don't know what the kavanah was, but you told us to fill up the pots. So he said, yes, the pots were filthy and sticky inside. I wanted to rinse it out. So I wanted the people to fill it up with water. All the water should leak out. And I just asked them, they should pour the few drops that are left, they should pour in the big container. But he wasn't interested in filling the container. He was interested in cleaning out the pots. So that's what Rab Soloveitchik said. The Medrash says, even though Ba'olam Hazeh, the Gemara says, La'olam Haba, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to teach us Torah, so we're going to have a better Rebbe, a better Malamed. So then we will learn and we won't forget. But Ba'olam Hazeh, the Rebbe is a human being, and human beings are fallible, and human beings forget. We have a Koach HaShikha. The Baruch Shalom doesn't forget anything. So Ba'olam Hazeh, of course, we're going to forget everything. But at least if it goes above our heads, we didn't accomplish anything. But if it goes in one ear and out the other, while it's going through, it'll clean out just like the water goes in the pot and goes out of the holes on the bottom. But it cleans out the stickiness in the pot. So the water will clean out our minds from all the contaminations that everybody has in their head. So he suggested maybe that's an additional level of interpretation. It's not Pashup Pshat at all. Or machshata, in Yiddish, that's how you solve it. It kashes out, machshata, it kashes out our mind, so it enables us to become a tzaddik and a chassid and a yoshem and so on. All the wonderful things. And then it says, it continues to say that if a person, many wonderful things, if a person learns a lot of Torah, lishma, he will be zeicha. He will be zeicha to Soides HaTorah. It's the Yadua that the Ravid, in a few places in his commentary on the Rambam, writes that Kvar Hafir Ruach HaKodesh B'Beis Midrashenu, they had Ruach HaKodesh, and he comes up with the following psak. And even though he writes like that, later Rishonim disagree with what he said. So he said he has Ruach HaKodesh, and how can it be that he had Ruach HaKodesh and what the din is? The Gemara says we have a principle, lo b'shamayim hi. We don't pass him based on Ruach HaKodesh, you don't pass him based on Nevuah either. So the answer is no. Every Talmid Chacham who learns Torah Lishma, and he has all these wonderful milas, the Mishnah tells us a Megalan lo Rozi Torah. Min Hashamayim, there will be Megala. That's not a violation of lo b'shamayim hi. In fact, we have a mitzvah, some Rishonim counted as one of the mitzvahs in the Torah. Whenever you don't know what the din is, you have to ask a shayla. You have to ask the Sanhedrin, ask a bigger Talmid Chacham, what is the din in this case? So why is the psak of the Talmid Chacham binding? Human beings are fallible. They can make mistakes. People make mistakes all the time. So the Gemara gives the answer. The psak of the Talmid Chacham is binding because we have the pasuk that says in Tehillim, Sar Hashem B'Yireyav Uvriso Lahodiyam. The Gemara has it in different places. The Gemara quotes that pasuk. How can the Talmid Chacham know that? How did he know? How did he know about these milidalim? Hashem B'Yireyav. Kadosh Baruch Hu will reveal his secrets, the Razei Torah, to the one, to the Talmid Chacham who's a Yirei Shamayim. That's why when the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Aseh Loch Harav, you have to pick a rabbi. So you have to pick a rabbi who's knowledgeable, and you have to pick a rabbi who's honest. You have to pick a rabbi who is humble, because one who is humble stands a better chance of paskening correctly. You have to pick a rabbi who is a Yirei Shamayim, who is a God-fearing individual, because the pasuk only promises, Sod Hashem li'yireyav, God will reveal his secrets to those who have Yirei Shamayim. Rashi in the beginning of Parshas Mishpat and quotes from the Tanoim. At the end of Parshas Yisro, it speaks about a Mizbach Adom Tasali, about constructing a Mizbeach. Then Mishpatim begins with establishing a Sanhedrin. So the Smichas HaParshas teaches us we should have the Sanhedrin, should be Samach LeMizbeach. In fact, the Sanhedrin is supposed to meet in the Lishkas HaGozis, in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Gemara tells us that room where they met was built in such a way, Chetzia B'Kodesh v'Chetzia B'Chol. Half of the room had Kedushas Harabais, and half of the room had Kedushas Azorah. The din is in the Azorah, and Yeshiva B'Azorah, no one's allowed to sit. Ela Malchei Beis David Bilvad, even the Kohen Gadol is not allowed to sit. Everyone has to stand in the Azorah. The Ezras Nashim didn't have Kedushas Azorah, only had Kedushas Harabayis. So Rashi writes in a few places, the Chachamim, when they built the second Beis HaMikdash, they didn't want to be matriach the women. A lot of times the women are pregnant or they're nursing, so it's too difficult for them to stand. So the women were permitted to sit in the Ezras Nashim in the Beis HaMikdash, because the Ezras Nashim was in the Harabayis, it wasn't in the Azorah. But in the Azorah, you're not allowed to sit. So the Gemara said, this chamber, this room in the Beis HaMikdash, where the Beis Nagadol met, they sat. The room was Chetzia B'Kodesh v'Chetzia B'Chol. Half of it had Kedushas Azorah, where you're not allowed to sit. Half of it had Kedushas Harabayis. So the Sanhedrin sat in Chatzi, Gur, and Agula, in a semicircle. They'd all be able to see each other. All the 71 members should be able to see each other. And they sat in that half of the room that was Chetzia B'Chol, and Kedushas Harabayis. So why they have to sit in such a room? They may by mistake move the chair to the other half of the room. Why didn't they give them a room in the Beis? Fine, you want them to be in the Beis HaMikdash, let him sit in a room that's all in Harabais. Why should you have Chetzia B'Kodesh? What do you gain by having half of the room in the Azorah if they're not allowed to sit there in the Azorah? You're only allowed to sit in the Harabais. The answer is we want to have Sanhedrin Samach LeMizbeach as much as possible, and we want to have the Sanhedrin Samach to the Oren HaKodesh and into the Luchos. So on the Bais Rishon, the Aron with the Luchos was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and the Sanhedrin is supposed to meet there in the building of the Beis HaMikdash in order that they should have a Hashras Ruach HaKodesh when they pass in their shaylas, because the psukim of the Beis Nagadol are binding on all of Klal Yisrael. So we want as much as possible they should get a siyai to the Shema, not to make a mistake. That's Sod Hashem li'yireyav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will reveal his secrets to the Talmid Chachamim. Towards the end of the Bais Rishon period, the Tanakh tells us in Sefer Divrei Hayamim that Yoshio HaMelech was going as the Orim with the Luchas. He put it in the basement, in a special room, in a special chamber. Originally, when Shlomo HaMelech built the first Beis HaMikdash, he followed all the instructions in the Megillah Biksav that David HaMelech gave him. The Navi gave David HaMelech a whole blueprint, the whole Megillah B'Ksav, about the layout of the Beis HaMikdash, and David HaMelech wanted to build the Beis HaMikdash, and then the Navi told him you're not allowed to because he killed so many Palestinian terrorists. His son is going to be Shlomo, is going to be an Ish Shalom. When it's Atu Shalom HaMakom Hazeh, the Beis HaMikdash has to be a Makom Shalom. And so the Navi told David HaMelech, his son is going to build a Beis HaMikdash. So in that Megillah B'Ksav, that's how the Rambam writes all of this in Hilchos Beis HaBchira. When he writes all the dinim about building Beis HaMikdash, in that Megillah B'Ksav, it said there are two places where you can put the Aron, either in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and when it's necessary, you can put it in a chamber in the basement. So Yoshua HaMelech, towards the end of the Bais Rishon period, felt that it's time now to take the Aron from the Kodesh HaKadoshim and to move it to the chamber in the basement. Why did he decide that it's time? So it's very unclear. The Pasuk Dirayam gives a reason, and it's very unclear what the reason is. So the Netziv wrote a commentary when he was a teenager. He wrote a very fascinating commentary on the Shiltus, on Einfall. They write, so where did he get such an idea? They write, and the one who turned out later to be his brother-in-law, the author of the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan married the Netziv's sister. Her maiden name was Berlin. So the Aruch HaShulchan also, at the same time, his future brother-in-law also wrote a commentary on the Shiltus. I don't know, I don't think it's available, but he refers to his commentary in his farm. He refers to it. So the Netziv in his commentary on the Shiltus wrote a long introduction. It's not really so much an introduction to the Shiltus, it's really an introduction to the whole idea of Torah Sheval Peh. Very fascinating. And now they published it in a separate volume, just the introduction alone, with a lot of footnotes, Marmekaimis, because he quotes so many Gemaras, and he doesn't always tell you where the Gemaras are, doesn't always tell what he's driving at. So now they have a new edition of the introduction. So in that introduction, he explains what he thinks Pshat is and not Pasuk. Dirayam, what motivated Yoshua HaMelech to be going is the Orim with the Luchas. So he interprets the Pasuk to mean he saw that the Churban is going to come. And Kolzman, the Bez Nagodl, was located in Lishkas HaGozes, in the Beis HaMikdash. They had this Hashras Hashchina that helped them paskin, so Hashem Li'Reyav. So the Psakim came easily. There's going to be a Churban Beis HaMikdash coming up, and the Talmid Chachamim will not be able to just sit back and have this Hashras Hashchina and come up with an easy psak. 1, 2, 3. They'll have to work hard. They have to do Pilpula Shel Torah, what we call Melchamta Shel Torah. They have to fight it out. Like when you write Shalas Tshuvas in all the later generation, these are the Gaonim, they have a Shad, and they say the din is X, Y, Z, and they quote a Gemara, Fartik. In the later generations, in the days of the Achrayim, the Rishonim also write Bekitza. I think the din is like this. But in the later Rishonim and by the Achrayim, they have to fight everything out. I think the Pshat is like this and not like that, and I don't accept what he said, and what he said is wrong, I'm proving it. There's a lot of Mechamta Shel Torah. So the Yoshua Melech wanted to train the members of the Sanhedrin and the new Derech HaPsika. They're going to have to pass Shalas with a different style. So he was going as the Lucha, so they should have less Sayyata Rishmaya to pass on the Shalas. But we still assume, we still assume that Megalan LaRosi Torah. Every time an honest to goodness Tam Chacham paskins a Shaila, we assume that he probably has a Sayyata Rishmaya to paskin like that. That's why the Chachamim came up with the idea, Elu Diveli Kim Chaim. How can you have a machlekes Rebbe and Rebbe? How can you ever have a machlekes Bishame Bisilum? Bishame came to that conclusion because said Hashem Lereya. They had a siyata d'shmai. Bisil came to that conclusion opposite from Bishame because said Hashem Lereya. So how can it be? He had a siyata d'shmai to say also. He had a siyata d'shmai to say mutter. That's what the Chazal say. Yes, the Rebbeinu Shalom did both possibilities. That's what the Ritva explains over there in that Gemara. The Ritva and Erev and Daf Yud Gimel on base explains it a mashal amal like this. So when Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is teaching him all the Taryag mitzvahs and all the details, all the halachas, the Moshe Rabbeinu said, let's say they're learning Hilchas Tefillin. So he says, well, what's the din under these circumstances? He says the Tefillin are kosher. What's the din under those circumstances? The Tefillin are puzzle. What's the din under these circumstances? So Rebbeinu Shalom tells him that's a gray area of halacha. The panim lakan, and I leave it up to the Chachmei HaTorah, shebechol davar dor, to determine whether, based on their perspective, the elements of psul outweigh the elements of hechsher, or the elements of hechsher outweigh the elements of psul. And sometimes the both perspectives are correct. Everybody has 20/20 vision. They have their glasses on. Maybe didn't have before, but now they all have 20/20 vision. And they have a perspective. They're looking for one corner. The other one is looking from another corner. They're looking at the exact same data. Everybody's looking at the same data. They come up with different conclusions. The answer is because what motivated the Chacham to say that was because of this principle. We assume that a psaka b'Talmid Chacham is binding because of Hashem Leirev, because he probably had to say Ayta Dishmaya to come to that conclusion. So how can it be that you have machlokes? They both had Ayta Dishmaya to come to their conclusion. The answer is yes. You can't always say Elu b'Elu. We spoke about it previously, a few weeks ago. Sometimes you just can't say Elu b'Elu Devei Chaim. There's a famous story about the Nodi Yehuda, that when he was appointed rabbi in the big city Prague, first he was rabbi in a little village, and then he became a rabbi in the big city. So soon after, they had a shaila in the slaughterhouse whether the animal was a treifel. And they showed him this punctured organ, and he knew Yeridea. He knew the Gemara knew Yeridea. This description of this case doesn't appear in the Gemara or in the Shulchan Aruch. If it doesn't appear, so it's kosher. But he felt uncomfortable saying that it's kosher. He knew that it's not discussed. So he took the Yeridea and he started mishing the pages back and forth and looking here, looking there. And then he slammed shut the Yeridea and he pointed, a few people had brought to Shaila to him. They brought that organ from the animal to him from the slaughterhouse. So after he mished the pages a little bit, he slammed shut the Yeridea and he said, there's no Shaila, you punctured the organ after the shechita was done. And he was screaming at one of the people. And he kept on screaming. So the fellow finally admitted it. So they asked him, how did you know that it was a fake? So he said, because whenever he gives a psak, he always feels, he always has a comfortable feeling. He has a divine assistance, a siyata d'shmaya, to pass him properly. So Hashem Leirev. And in this situation, he knew that this doesn't appear in the Gemara or in the Shulchan Aruch. If it doesn't appear, it means that it's kosher. So why does he have an uncomfortable feeling? Why doesn't he always feel comfortable like he always felt comfortable? He said it must be they only give this divine assistance when it's necessary. And it's not necessary, just like the Rebbe Shalom doesn't do nisim for unnecessarily. He's not going to give a divine assistance. Why is it not necessary? But they have a shaila on the animal. They don't know the din. I know that it doesn't say in the Gemara. So he was thinking to himself as he was mishing the pages. He wasn't looking to find this case. He knew the case is not discussed in the Shulchan Aruch. So why could it be? How could it be that it's a fake shaila? So he realized that when he was brought up as a candidate for the Rabbanis in Prague, there was always, whenever they appointed a new rabbi in a city in Europe, for years, there'd always be a big machlokes. So some of the Balabatim wanted their nephew, their cousin, their uncle, whatever. There was always machlokes. So some of the people that brought to Shiloh from the slaughterhouse, some of them were his followers and some of them were his opponents who wanted someone else to be the rabbi. So he realized it must be that it's a fake Shiloh. It must be that someone knew that this description of such an organ, a faulty organ, a hole in the organ, is not described in the Gemara, and they wanted to catch him to show that the rabbi doesn't know how to pass him. So that's why he slammed shut the Yeridea and he pointed to the one whom he knew who was opposed to his appointment as the rabbi. He said, you made up the shaila, you punctured the hole after the shechita took place. Usually you can tell whether it happened while the animal was alive or after it's dead. If it happened while the animal was alive, it's going to have blood on the outside. If it happened after it died already, then it isn't going to have a black and blue mark. It's not going to have any blood over there. But only if you do it immediately after he did the shchitas, and then you can't tell. And then they admitted that he was right. That's what the Mishnah tells them. We assume in many generations, many Talmid Chacham write like that. Even if they don't write like that, a lot of times a Talmid Chacham works hard on the shot. The Gemara has an expression. The Gemara Megillah has. If a person says, I worked hard and I found out the answer to the halacha, you should believe him. The person says, he says, I worked hard and I didn't come up with the right answer. He says, I didn't have to work hard. No, you need Yigiyah v'amola shatar, you have to work hard. The Mishnah talks about that. That Yigiyah v'atorah ato omel, you have to have amela matorah. That's the Rashi on the opening pasuk. It doesn't mean if we keep the mitzvah. You have to work hard when you learn Torah. The Gemara comments on the pasuk in Eov. Adam la'amal yulad. Man was created in order to work hard. What does it mean? La'amal malacha. God created human beings that they should have to work for a living. That's what it means. The Gemara says, no, it doesn't mean amal malacha. It means amal peh. They should work hard talking. Talking what? Talking dvarim b'teilim? No. Talking the Torah. The purpose of the creation was that man should have amal peh. He should work hard in learning. So that's why the Gemara has that expression. If the person I worked hard and I found out the answer, tamin, you should believe him. If he says lo yagaitim matzasi, I figured out the din without working hard, al tamin. So the Mefarshim all ask, why is it called matzasi? If if you work hard, then memela it follows that that you're successful. But what it shouldn't be called mitzvah. Mitzvah means you didn't make. I'm walking down the street, I find $1,000 bill on the street. That's called the mitzvah. But if I worked hard and then I come up with an accomplishment, so that's not called mitzvah. Then the answer is no. That's what it means. If a person works hard in learning, then they give him a matanim and hashamayim. He comes up with the answer that he would have not come up with that answer. The Torah is really l'mayla me'hasagas b'nei adam. So it's a matanim and hashamayim. It's like a mitzvah. It's like a mitzvah. You have to, in order to be zeichet to the mitzvah, you have to do yagiyah. In order to be kainah, in order to acquire this schutz, you have to do amal shel Torah. Once you do the amal shel Torah, then they give you a matanim and hashamayim. So that's an important concept. That's why we assume the psak of a Talmid Chacham is binding, because Hashem the Yireya, but it's only if he's a Yirei Shamayim. If the Talmid Chacham is lacking in Yirei Shamayim, then you shouldn't ask him the shalos, because this promise does not apply to him. And the Mishnah says that this will accomplish, the person will become an original thinker. A lot of times, the person is not such a genius, but because he learns Torah Lishma, he will be zeichet to become an original thinker. Like a river that keeps on flowing and flowing and flowing. Erech Ruach is an important midah. He will become Erech Ruach, not to become a kaisen. The Rambam writes famously, we spoke about it, that a person should always go b'derech hamamutza, in the middle of the road, shouldn't be extreme in this direction or in that direction. And there's one exception to the rule, when it comes to arrogance. So the Rambam writes, included in arrogance, that there's a chumrah midirabbanan. In our Torah, we said, the Lech Mishnah, there's a steer in the Rambam. In Pirkei Avos, the Rambam says, when it comes to arrogance, humility, should also go b'derech hamamutza. It shouldn't be a shafal. It should be an onav. Onav means in the middle. Shafal means like a behemoth, nothing. It shouldn't be a shafal. But midrabanan, they made exera because it's hard to figure out what's exactly the middle of the road by arrogance and humility. So midrabanan made exera. Miod heavy shval ruach. You should go to an extreme. So when the Rambam writes this in Perek Beis in Hilchos Midas, in Hilchos Deis, so he says included in arrogance is the midah of kas. The kas usually comes because a person is a balgaiva. So the Mishnah says you have to be erech ruach.
Good morning. This is Chanoch Newman. I have Rabbi Strauss.
The person, if the person learns Torah Lishma, he will be zeicher to erech ruach. People who will insult him, he will be meichel. The Gemara says a person is Maver al midaisav, one who's forgiving to others who ba'avot him. The Gemara tells us, and they will forgive all of his sins. Because we sin and we anger HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't slap us right away. He doesn't hit us right away. So if we want him not to be makbid on us, if we won't be makbid when others insult us, then so that's why one is mechal ala bono. He will be zeicha dan imchalam la kol abanoisav. The next Mishnah quotes the pasuk nezem zov bi'af chazir. If you're gonna dress up the chazir and you're gonna put a golden ring on his nose, but the chazir is gonna dig his nose into filth, it's gonna look ridiculous. So too, isha yafa v'saras tam. So the Mishnah is talking about a Talmud Chacham who doesn't have Yirah Shamayim. So that's like he has the jewelry, like the Chazir has the ring, the nose ring, but the rest of him is disgusting. So if a woman is dressed beautifully with a beautiful gown and a fancy hat and a fancy shekel and everything, and then she puts on jewelry, so then the jewelry enhances her looks. If the woman is just wearing a bathrobe and then she puts on fancy jewelry, so it looks ridiculous. It doesn't enhance her looks. So if a person is a Balmidus and he has a lot of Torah, so then the Torah enhances his looks. Then it's like jewelry. But if he doesn't have Midas Taibas, if he's lacking Yirah Shamayim, then it's like the Nezm Zabi Av Chazir, Isha Yafa B'Saras Tam. Mishnah has the famous comment: the Atzeres Adibus were engraved al aluchas, choros al aluchas, atikri choros al acherus. What does it mean? Adlucha b'cheren, the Mishnah Osik b'Talmud Torah. So that one level of interpretation is that the whole purpose of Yitzias Mitzrayim was in order to lead to Maimon HaSinai. They were told before Yitzias Mitzrayim, Hatziach Hasam in Mitzrayim, Tabdan HaSalakim, Ala Hor Hazeh, after Yitzias Mitzrayim will come Maimon HaSinai. But another level of interpretation of the Mishnah is, a lot of people, the Jews were always in the forefront of fighting for freedom. The American Civil Liberties Union, the Jews were always involved, and in the communist movement in order to get freedom, in all the generations. But what's your definition of freedom? You're free to do wild things, crazy things. So you're really fashklaft. You're a slave to your Yetzer Hara. That's how the rabbis would say. Or one might present it differently, that the person is addicted. He has addictions. He's addicted to stupid things. So if a person is Mekabel Torah, then he will not be enslaved to his Yetzer Hara. He won't have addictions. Unfortunately, now we see a lot of people become addicted to learning and addicted to mitzvahs. So they just want to do the mitzvahs and learn because that's what they're used to. But if you have a suffix sakana, so the Rabbanim say you should not gather together because there's a greater chance of transmitting the disease if all the people get together. So some people say, no, we want to daven tefillah b'tzibur, we're going to learn, and you should do everything the way we always did. The mamash addicted to learning and addicted to davening b'tzibur. They don't do it because it's the Ratzon Hashem. If they would daven and learn because it's Ratzon Hashem, and the Rabbanim tell them that now the Ratzon Hashem is that you should not daven tefillah b'tzibur, you should not learn in the Beis Medrash, then they would not be learning. We don't want to be Mechal Shabbos. But if your wife is having a baby, you have a Chodesh Yesh B'Sakana, it's a mitzvah to drive to the hospital. You don't have to feel brokenhearted. Why you had to be Mechal Shabbos? That's the mitzvah. Sometimes, not always, is bringing the korban mitzvah. Sometimes, the Rebbe Shalom gets angry that people are doing averis and they're bringing karbanis. Rebbe Shalom says, I don't want your karbanis. The Shmaya, it's more important to do Ratzon Hashem. So the Ratzon Hashem usually is that we should daven mitzvah and we should learn Torah in a Beis Medrash. But a lot of times the Ratzon Hashem is not so. So a lot of people do Torah mitzvahs because of an addiction. They're not choros. They're not doing. Yeah, a person has to be an Ebed Hashem. Many people were celebrating Yom Yerushalayim today, and Eretz they celebrated yesterday because they didn't want to get involved in Chilul Shabbos. So in the beginning of, many people say Hallel. So in the beginning of the Hallel, say Hallel Avdei Hashem. We originally were avodim to Paro, and then when Paro freed us, Kili ben Yisrael avodim, avadayhem. Now we are Avdei Hashem. The Eved Hashem has to do the Ratzon Hashem. You shouldn't be addicted to mitzvahs. You shouldn't do mitzvahs anashim ulumada. You shouldn't learn Torah and do mitzvahs because that's what he's used to. You should do it because it's Ratzon Hashem. If there's a suffix sakana, you shouldn't do the mitzvahs. So a lot of these people say, look, we've been davening tefillah b'tzibur for the last 2 months and no one got sick. So it's a proof that there was no suffix sakana. Good, it's a good proof. But the halacha says, the Maram Shik has a tshuva about this, the halacha says that whenever there's a suffix sakana, you're not allowed to do the mitzvah b'taras vadai, not b'taras suffix. And if it turns out later that no one got sick, it's a gloy milsa mafreya, that there was no sakana. No, if the perception was b'shaito that there's a suffix sakana, so even if in truth there's no sakana, we don't have ruach hakodesh. Most of us don't have ruach hakodesh. So even if in truth there was no sakana, but there was the perception was that there was a suffix sakana, then it's b'toras vada. You're not allowed to do the mitzvah. There's a tshuva. I'll close with this. There's a tshuva in the Maharamshik. Ramshik was a talmid of the Chasam Sofer. So he has a tshuva where he discusses a person that had a chazaka. He was the Baltican shul for years and years. And one year he developed a heart condition. The doctor told him he's not allowed to blow shofar. He may die. He may cause a sakana. He may die. So he didn't listen to the doctor. He blew shofar anyway. And everybody heard the tkis and everybody was yotze and he didn't die. He survived. So he said, you see, I'm okay. So the Mamshik paskin that nobody was yotze with his tkiyas. Since there was a suffix sakana, even though it turned out later, that he wasn't the bisakanas nefashis, but since the perception was, the doctor's perception was that there is a suffix sakana, he's also b'taras vaday to below shofar. So he can't be moitzi the others. The Mamshik paskin, the people, if it's still Rosh Hashanah, people have to hit kiyah shofar a second time from somebody else. Just like if the best Baltikei in town is an Ochri, the Ochri is not mechuyev to kiyah shofar. So it can't be moitzi them. Whoever's not mechuyev b'davar. So the one who has a suffix sakana, al pidin, is not mechuyev to kiyah shofar, even if it turns out later on that there was no sakana. But b'shaita we didn't know that. Whenever there's a suffix sakana, the din is that you're not supposed to do the mitzvah. Should all be healthy.
Does Rebbe have time? Does Rebbe have time for questions?
Sure.
Okay, so Rebbe said yesterday in his share that the Aron was lowered into a second room, right? And the question was how could a person see the Aron? When was it? Right, Rebbe went into that when he ended off with that there was a point in Klal Yisrael where we saw Hashem face to face. Now there's another point where we can't see him face to face. There's a medrash that says in Eicha that they took out the Aron when they stormed the Beis Hamikdash. They took out the Aron and they paraded it through the streets. Was that a fake Aron? Was that a dummy Aron that they made? That's what it would seem like. If Yoshiyahu, if the king hid the Aron, it would seem like that there was a dummy Aron that they put in there into the Beis Hamikdash that the Goyim got their hands on.
Could be. I don't know. Unless it means that they went
right, because they say, and they were saying. No, because they were saying that they were saying, look, that the Goyim actually took the actual Aron.
Maybe.
Is that what it would mean, that the Goyim were able to actually get their?
Could be.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
Gemara is not sure historically where was the Aron after the Churban Abayis. Was it still in the basement the whole time, or was it taken to Roma? Was it taken to Bavel, or was it taken somewhere else? The Gemara has different historical opinions. They're not sure where the Aron was.
I see. My second question was, Rebbe mentioned the thing about the Sanhedrin today. The Sanhedrin was a very important part of Klal Yisrael because you had 140 people in one room, right? 70 were the Sanhedrin, the 70 were the Talmidim, and they were discussing ideas and concepts, and they were working out concepts what one person couldn't work out in their own mind. And that was Etzem Hashchina, right? Isn't that what Etzem Hashchina is? Is that you have that type of understanding and that type of refinement of thought, right? Okay. Isn't that etzem hashchina? Isn't that what we call etzem hashchina?
I'm not familiar.
Right? And when Rebbe said that the Torah doesn't change, no, because shchina is it means that that Hashem is resting on something, right? If we're not kalim for that resting, then there is no shchina, right? Shchina has to have something to rest on. Right, that's the word shchina, right? I am resting on something. It means that there's something. I don't have to explain it. It means there's something underneath to be resting on. So we find that the shchina, right? There was the 10 gullus of the shchina, right? And one of them was that it went from the Sanhedrin to the Mizbeach. I don't remember the 10 steps, but we see clearly that the Sanhedrin was a very important part of the shchina. And I just want to understand what that was. And I'm trying to say maybe that's what it is.
They had Ashuras Hashchinim when they were working out their shilas to assist them not to make a mistake. Yes.
Got it. And they had the ability to transform the Torah per every generation, right? Yeah. So meaning they could change the laws, they could make the laws adapt to the times. They were able to do that.
If they're using the Midrash HaTorah and the Dreshus, Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good Shabbos.
You too. A good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
A good
Rabbi.
Shabbos.
Do we have time for one more
We
question?
really, we really appreciate this year. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
traditionally we never get a chance to hear the Rebbe speak. So I really appreciate this year. So
Very good.
thank you.
Very good.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So when it comes to the 48 qualities that we acquire Torah, so I believe that if we count them one by one, we get 50 qualities, not 48. So a friend of mine once pointed me to the Medrash Shmuel. So there he has a dibur mascho for each one. But when it comes to two of them, he pairs them together. I believe it's Mishnah and Mikra, and then Eiva es hamakim, Eiva es habriyos. So he's machriya that way. I wonder, like, first of all, what is that? It says 48, so really it's 50, but it's really I guess you can. I mean, Mishnah Mikra maybe is easier, but it's a whole pshatlach to say Eives Hamakom, Eives Habriyos is one thing, even though that's a beautiful idea. But what is the meaning of that? First, and second, is there any other resolution that anyone's made to this issue?
I'm sure there are. I'm not familiar. There are several svarim that were written, separate svarim on the 48 midas. So they probably deal with this issue. The question about what we learned last week in the Perek, Basar Mamaris Niver Ha'olam, when the world was created, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave 10 instructions. So what were the 10? Or which of that 10 nisyonis, Avraham Avinu, which were the 10 nisyonis? So the different opinions. It's unclear. The Chazal don't have. The Rishonim talk about. So they have to sometimes combine a few together to squeeze it into 10. Good.
Okay. Thank you. Shabbos.
Good. A good Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes. What is it?